Welcome, everyone. You are at the artist panel and chat about the Red Thread of Fate, which is a juried fiber exhibit here at the Harlow Gallery in Hollowell, Maine, curated by Sara Hotchkiss. If you don't know me, I'm Helene Ferrar. I am the president of the board of directors at the Harlow Gallery, and I have been since February of 2020 during the whole pandemic. And I'm an artist and art educator myself, and I've been wearing many hats at the Harlow the last couple of years as we've done a lot of transitions with staff and kind of keeping our heads together during a kind of a tumultuous time in the entire universe. So we are happy to have you. And I wanted to introduce you to Ellen Snyder, who is our gallery assistant here at the Harlow Gallery, and she is at this moment really the glue. So she is the freshest bottle of Elmer's we have, and we're happy to have her. And she's probably been the primary conversational person that you've had, and as you will have going forward for the next couple of months. I wanted to explain how the idea of the show came about. Actually, was the Harlow has an exhibition committee, and Jennifer Lee Moreau, who lives down in Deer Isle, actually the idea for the show started out with a conversation with the exhibits committee, and Jennifer sort of came out of an idea, and we just sort of, it grew from that. So I'm going to go ahead and read the precipice of this. The Red Thread of Fate is an East Asian belief originating from Chinese mythology. Two connected by the red thread are destined lovers regardless of place, time, or circumstances. This magical cord may stretch or tangle, but will never break. And we have some more writing online on our website, the Harlow Gallery, if you want to read a little bit more about the Red Thread of Fate. So I don't know, is Sarah with us?
We're trying to work on getting her.
Okay, all right.
Microphone.
So one of the questions we wanted to ask everyone and was just some general questions for everyone that's here. And then we're going to jump to each of the different artists and just talk with them for a moment about their work. So the first question just wanted to throw out to everyone is, how does your artwork reflect the theme, the Red Thread of Fate? Is there anyone that wants to just jump into that? And you're all going to be quiet on me? Really cruel. Jamie,
I'll go just because.
Thanks, Sally.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I have just one little piece in the show, and when I submitted it, it was really because it was a textile show and sewing is part of what I do. But when I was thinking about this today, reflecting on it, I do think that there is a relationship with the theme. The red thread of fate is really all about love, and which is very fitting for the season of Valentine's. And my work was inspired in part by a poem by Walt Whitman, and that's where the title comes from, There Swells and Jets a Heart. And that poem is also about love. And in that case, not so much so, love between a couple, but his love in general of humanity, and particularly of just the physicality of being human. And so I think there's also literally some red thread in that picture. And I think, red really resonates with us because it's the color of blood. It really represents a life force. So, that's the relationship between my work and the theme.
Jamie, you want to jump in on that?
Sure, yeah. My piece, I think, like Sally, I was also thinking of sort of the connections of love between friends, between places, and all the different sort of connective threads that we have in our life. My piece, I'm showing it now, is the herb garden with the meeting house at Shaker Village, and that's where I work. It's now been a very constant theme in my work is Shaker Village, because I'm there every day and it's gorgeous. But what really gets me is the connections and all of the people, artists, craftspeople, makers of all kinds, and just wonderful, friendly people that I've met. Some of the actual pieces of the textile and that the threads and the yarns are things that I've made there. So some of it was natural dye workshop that I took there with one of my friends, Marty Elkin. And then rug hooking itself, this is a hooked piece, is something that I learned through there. And it's just all from everything. It's really just all of those connections, and how that, to me, I feel as though that it was my fate to be there and to meet all these people and to connect and promote what they do, and through my love of craft and art. And so this piece just really was like, that seems like the one to submit to the show, because it just seemed very naturally that it really is my fate to have those connections.
So the idea of the red thread of fate is it's not really just about red, it's about the commentary on the idea of red, passion, connectedness. There's a lot of awesome things that happen there. Does anybody else just want to comment? Oh, Sally, just real quick. So did you have this piece made before the show, or did the call for the art inspire the piece to be done in time, which often artists need a deadline, right? I was just kind of curious if you already had the piece done, or.
The piece was done this summer 2020. So no, it was not done in response to the show.
Yeah, okay, that's great. What about you, Jamie? Did you have this piece done, or did it kind of push you to get it completed in time?
It pushed me to get it completed. I did have it done, and my edges were finished, but it wasn't ready to like hang or anything. So I did get to sort of revisit it for that and clean it up a little bit, but it was already made.
Okay. All right, well, that's awesome. Is there anyone else on our panel that wants just to talk about how the red thread connects to their work? Molly, go.
Yeah, I'll speak to it. My piece doesn't have any red in it. I really didn't apply for the show for the theme necessarily. I just was excited to apply for a textile show, but kind of similarly, as I was thinking about it today, I was kind of thinking about just how I really think about string as metaphor for connection, and textiles in general, I think, is pretty heavily entrenched in metaphor. And also thinking about sort of relationships. Both of my pieces really connect to people like in my lives. And so kind of thinking about that continued thread that can sort of weave one person to the next. And also kind of speaking to the body and how garments themselves really can stand in as a presence when like the body isn't in them. So both my pieces sort of have these nods to clothing. Like the large piece has like an arm that kind of comes out of it, and then the other piece is sort of like a segment of a jacket as it continues to grow. So yeah, those are kind of things that I was thinking about.
It's funny you should say that, Ellen. To Ellen, I came in and I said, I really want to just go put on Molly's pieces and experience it, but I don't think they'll fit. And it's just like an interesting conversation with the viewer to see something that feels like it should be worn. I should experience it, but it doesn't really, it's obviously not gonna fit like a jacket. So it's this interesting tension that's made with the viewer that I'd like to put my head through that hole, but my head is too big, or that Where's
And
the
can
other
I
one?
undo that?
I'm
Yeah.
so intrigued.
You
I
could.
should
Maybe you
I could
could.
do all kinds of things on this chair. This could be I'm rolling around the gallery with this.
You could put your arm in one and your arm in the other.
I know, a straight jacket, but Ellen, I never thought, see, this is why I have Ellen at the Harlow. Who would have ever thought to put this cool rolling chair in here? I can do the whole gallery on it. So that's awesome. Well, the other thing that I don't know if folks could see by the way I was holding the camera, but what I really admire, Molly, about your piece is the mastery of the stitching. The way it is sewn is so intricate and beautiful, and so I hate the word perfect. I kind of don't like that, but there is a certain meditative quality about the rhythm of the way you've stitched it. It's really admirable, and I really enjoyed it. So I hope that people will come and check that out a little bit more. Is there anyone else that wants to comment about the red thread in general? Anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
would.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, thank you. All right, Meryl, I'll go find your piece. I'm not going to
Okay.
will to it. It's really obnoxious. All right, here we go.
I keep hearing similar themes about the pieces that people have done, and this piece is all about love and connection. This is a tribute to my little Chihuahua Lily, who recently died, and so this piece is called Tea, Pray, Love, and I'm a ceramic and a fiber artist, and in this piece I'm combining my two loves, and I continue to have this amazing connection with my little dog. She was my canine soulmate, and somebody who's very dear to me said that once a person or an animal dies, then their souls are kind of equal, and now there's no difference between her soul and one of our souls. And I mean, I felt that way when she was alive. She was a human dog. So I feel that this piece really fits the show, and I'm very honored to be part of your show. Thank you.
It was such a great discovery to walk and see the show and then see this.
I can't hear you.
Oh,
Yeah, we
can
can't.
anybody hear me? Ellen, can you hear me?
I can hear you. No one else can hear Helene.
I can't hear her.
Where did I go?
That's
Oh,
better.
now you're there.
Oh,
Now
I'm
you're there.
sorry. It was so
All right.
nice to walk around the gallery and then come around the corner to find this intimate little dog there. And geez, what a delight. I think
Thank you.
when I thought of your piece, I'm pretty childlike in general. And so I was thinking of the Velveteen Rabbit, actually. Not the Velvet, yes, no, corduroy, excuse me. Corduroy with like that tenderness of an animal, and the idea that corduroy was, little bits had come off. Do you remember the children's story where like the button was missing in the department store?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
it's just like how much we do love our animals. Most people really, really love our animals, but there's something about that connection with fiber and the act of the child sewing the little missing bits together again. It's just really, really, it's beyond words. Lovable. And that Chihuahua is just, it's really breathtaking. It really is a great.
Well, she is love. That little doggie was love, and we loved her until she was falling apart. But we loved her so much. And this is Lily come back to life.
I think that was so brave of you to share something that's really close to your heart like that and something deeply personal. I think that can make people really uncomfortable sometimes doing that, but you made it fun with the wings and then the dialogue between the ceramic and the fiber. It's like, because you don't know exactly what you're looking at until you look, there's just like, there's almost a sense of mystery to it, which is awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, you're
Thank you.
welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so we have a couple more questions I was just going to throw out, and I'm just trying to be mindful of time too. So most artists work in themes. Some people don't, they or maybe they have themes of their entire creative life they might have. And not everybody in our audience is familiar with everyone's work. Is there anyone here that works and makes multiple pieces about or similar to their the subjects they have in the exhibit, or plan to make more work like that? Anyone that we haven't heard from yet on the panel want to talk about that? Christine? Okay. Oh, honey, we can't hear you because I think you're muted. I know, it's so hard. I have to have these glasses on too. I can't see.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I have to find your pieces. I can't remember where you're.
It's right behind you.
Oh, okay.
I am right next to Molly.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't think you are.
I'm right next to Molly. Right, stop. It's right behind you. Turn around.
This piece?
No.
It's to the left of
black,
Molly's.
it's a black piece, wall hanging.
Is this funny or what that I'm being such a good spot? All right. Oh, that's because Christine, you have your initials. I'm so sorry.
Pardon me? Oh, it says CE. Right. Sorry.
I'm not a knucklehead. I just.
So I was in the middle of I was starting to develop something, and I saw the application, and I ended up doing this because, oh shit, I forgot the question. I'm so sorry, Helene.
I know art police, as I tell people. So I was just asking whether you make pieces like this often.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yes, I do. Since I retired and COVID struck just as I was retiring, I was sitting. I've been making abstracts with paper and cloth, and I just decided to mess around with the cloth, all cloth. So I have been doing that, and I've recently, just to get into it, the Mojus main open juried art show, to put something in a frame again, but I continue to just work with fabric wall hangings. But for my the symbolism, it was just an red was symbolizing love in the abstract.
It looks really good next to Molly's piece. That's good there. That was a good choice, Ellen. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, I'm going to hop over to, I'm going to hop past sort of our general questions we sort of have established and start to get talking to everybody here. And since I know that Jamie, you have an obligation to leave first a little bit early, would you mind just talking, you already talked a little bit about your piece, I'll go over there, but if, can you talk a little bit about how you got how your piece evolved? You talked a little bit about the content of it. Did you work from a photo? Are you working out and looking out a window? What was your development in making your piece?
It's a mixture. So I have recently started working from photographs. It's not something I have done for a long time. I usually work right from life, but with no, I'm doing a lot. I'm a painter primarily, so that takes me forever. So when I'm working on that, and I started doing these sort of pieces that have a lot of architecture in it, and I started getting really used to working from photos because it was taking me a long time to get the angles down and really get the drawing and everything. So this one did start from a photograph, and then I also started evolving, like the flowers, the yarrow, the plants, just from my kind of stylizing them from my imagination a little bit. But really just I was trying to think of the energy that we feel in that place. And it's something everyone's like, you can't describe it until you're at Shaker Village. And so it just really, again, just tied to that theme again, about trying to express that sort of movement and peace and love and acceptance that everybody feels when they're there, that I certainly feel. So I was using my photograph for reference, but then really just having fun with the fiber as I was hooking it and playing with it. And I sort of, since I am a painter, think of it more like a painting than a traditional rug hooking that, I'm not blocking in colors or trying to keep it really nice. I use nice and neat. One of my friends who is a traditional rug hooker says my hooking is very wibbly wobbly. I like that because I do kind of treat it more like paint, because I am used to blending colors, so I'm not used to putting a color down and it's just there. So as you do it with hooking, so I like to use different textures with it. And again, for what it's trying to represent, I think that for me, in my mind, that mixture of different textures, different unexpected, sometimes I just use some frayed thread that comes out of the base of my piece, and I say, this is great, I needed some white, and so I'll just hook it in. And it's not typically normal, it's a totally different thickness than the rest of it, but to me, it really represents the sort of the mixed cultures and mixed people that unite in that place. So it just kind of seemed fitting.
So there's a lot of different things that are happening with you're making the piece. You have that time where you're in the creation mode of it. And I would imagine, stitching something or hooking anything is a lot different than moving paint around on a brush. There's a lot less immediacy, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But the thing about doing anything in the fiber arts, there's a certain mindfulness that happens, or the lack of the mind, because you're integrated into working in a repetitive fashion. It's hard to put into words what the act of making feels like to someone unless you've been engaged in it before. But it's a pretty beautiful thing. And I love that you are connected to that place, how special that is, how lucky they are to have you, Jamie.
Well, I'm lucky to have them too.
Yeah,
So.
It's a very beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that just wants to comment about the act of making and how that might be evocative of a meditative state, or how it might connect you with your work? I mean, you're all making things that require a certain amount of time, and your mind is in a different place when you're doing that. Does anyone want to comment that's on our panel about that? Maysa, I'm going to call on you because I'm an art teacher. I feel like I can do that. Can I?
Yes, you can. I'm a college student. You can be, yes.
All right, let me find your piece though.
Yeah.
Oh yes, the book, of course.
Yes.
A little bit about, you can talk a little bit about your piece in general, or you could talk about that process of making. And if you handle the book, and just, I'll be really careful.
I didn't catch all of that, but I'm just gonna improvise in that case.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of my creative process, I'm very interested in small repetitive, doing something over and over and over again. I think it really helps me focus, and it's super integral to my practice. Even before I was doing fibers, all of my illustrations were very fine lines and details. So I think that's what draws me to things like knitting and weaving. I think that really intricate and meditative art mediums have always been something I'm super interested in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your piece feels really good.
Yes, it's very soft. I picked a very nice, lots of nice fabrics.
Yeah, and the painterly quality of the surfaces are really, really beautiful. I hope that everyone will come and take a look. It's nice to have something intimate again in the gallery on this pedestal. I love this drawing. I hope I'm getting this in here. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, so all right, let's hop on to a couple more questions. I know that Molly, you have to go shortly too. And I and Ellen both, I mean, I particularly love the title of this one because I'm a mom and I feel like I spend a lot of time in the kitchen. And you have a title that is, I just threw all the dishes away. And I was wondering if you could talk more about the title of that piece and how it relates to this work.
Yes. Helene, you were sort of fading out. So just the title of the work, my question, right? That's what I'm doing.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Talk about the title
That's
of the
okay.
piece.
Okay. Yeah, so I have a really strong interest in quilt history and quilt language. All quilt patterns have names. But it's hard to really find a lot about like why they're named, what they're named. And so the pattern, the triangular pattern is actually a version of what's called broken dishes, which is a like historical quilt pattern. And so when I first had my child, I was living in this apartment and this woman lived in the back of my house, and I would often see her, you know, gardening and doing various things. And we would always congregate in the, you know, when I would be like doing errands outside. And she once said to me, like, when my son was that little, I threw away all the dishes. And I was like, oh, and she would always say these comments to me about having this newborn child. And I was a new mom, and I was kind of going through my own sort of, you know, transition into motherhood. And but that always really stuck to me with me, because I mean, on one hand, it's like I totally get it. On the other hand, to me, it's like a silent protest or like a silent scream, or like the sound of broken dishes, like, you know, you can hear it, right? But the act of quilting is so slow and methodical. And and her name was Marcia, and so this was my tribute to Marcia, because I always thought about her, you know, I mean, throughout the sort of beginnings of motherhood, but you know, my pieces sort of travel with me. I do a lot of, you know, quilting sort of on the go, so I'm sort of a nomadic artist to a certain degree. Like, so this started as like triangles that all just sort of like built onto themselves, and then I didn't really plan for it. It just sort of began to grow, and then it was sort of organically sort of spoke to me sort of over time. And like I said before, a lot of my work really pays tribute to the body in some sort of way. And so my beginnings of creating this arm that kind of came out of it kind of comes from that. And in a lot of ways, it's like a large puzzle, really, composition wise. But yeah, so that's the history behind the name.
Well, you know, that gets me thinking that about storytelling, you know, storytelling in art and storytelling and in all art, especially in fiber arts. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with the art of Faith Ringgold and how she retold her story as a woman artist through painting and quilting. And, you know, your piece, you know, it's clear to me that there's a story there. And, you know, The title, I love it when artists put a really good title on it, especially if the piece doesn't evoke a specific idea. Like when you look at it, more for its formal elements. But when I kept thinking I wanted to put it on, thinking that would be uncomfortable and weird. And then when I saw the title, I was like, oh, I'm so curious now. So I love hearing that. I love hearing all that layers of idea development, and to imagine, Molly, that you're traveling around with these little squares and stitching them bit by bit in between working and mothering and all that stuff. It's kind of a beautiful thing. That's awesome. Okay, so one of the things that Ellen had written about your piece, and I don't know how important it is, but whenever we are putting together here a show at the Harlow, we're always thinking about balance. And your piece is pretty big compared to the rest of the other pieces in the show, Molly. So I was just wondering, when you're making your fiber pieces, are they often of that scale? Or, I mean, because yours is lots of pieces that have been put together. And I was just wondering, do you always work that big? Or
No, not always. I don't really stay in a particular size. I think it's just kind of what the piece sort of leads to. I think this piece in itself called for that because it needed to be, in my mind, like body sized and sort of blanket sized and sort of paying tribute to a lot of those sort of textile objects. It didn't make sense for it to be much smaller in my mind. So
it really is, when you think about it, more of a classic kind of a quilt hanging size.
Yeah.
Actually, and you got me thinking now, it was about a year ago that we had a wall hanging donated to the Harlow. Oh my God, and my brain fog has just forgotten who made it. And we hung it there. It was a completely different piece, but that's interesting. I'll have to think about that some more. But okay, well, moving on. Thank you, Molly. There's a couple of people on the panel that we haven't talked with yet. And I was wondering if Nat, can you tell I'm an art teacher part-time? I'm gonna ask you to talk about your piece. I need to find it. Someone needs, Ellen or somebody help me, because I don't.
Well, it should stand out. It's right behind you.
Is it?
Lie. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
It's not that one. It's
Yeah.
A red quilt next to Molly's.
Yes, of course. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. So one of the questions that we wanted to ask you was a little bit just, your piece is called The Perfect Lie. And
I'm sorry, I'm not really able to hear what you're saying. It kind of sounds a little muffled.
I'm sorry. Your piece is titled Perfect Lie. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your title and the connections to your piece.
Yeah, so it is titled Perfect Lie. The quilt itself has perfect is a lie kind of appliqued and cut into and torn out of the surface. I, like many artists, really struggle with perfectionism, and it's been something that I've been trying to throw away from my creative practice. I also started teaching art within the past year, and kind of over that process have realized that it doesn't matter if things are perfect. There's really not like this end all be all. It's just more important to enjoy the journey and like come into creating and having that time of making something. And I thought it tied in really interestingly with the idea of fate, because we have no idea where our futures go, and we can plan it out and try to make it perfect, but it just kind of ends up how it does.
There's something beautiful when things aren't so perfect. That makes me think about Jane's piece with the wibble wobble stitches that her friend said. There's something kind of human, about not making everything, machine-like, right? And having that movement in the mark. I loved your piece, and I loved the way it sat next to the other one. It's a great conversation. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I still am not getting every word. Kind of when the camera goes off you, I'm losing some of what you're saying.
Okay. Nat, could you talk a little bit about the fabric? We haven't talked a lot about what material is in your piece. I'm sorry, every time I turn it away, it doesn't hear me as well. I apologize.
That's
So
okay.
if you want to just talk a little bit about the fiber material that you use in yours or your process, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So like a lot of artists, I have a closet that is full of different fabrics that I've kind of accumulated. So I have been trying to kind of pare down on that. So there's some linen from a jumpsuit that I used to have. There is this like red fabric that's in the lettering and in the candle. That's from kind of the inside lining of a jacket that I found at Goodwill. There's some white canvas that I got at a job a few years ago. And just, you know, some good old cheap Martins cotton quilting fabric as well. So I really try in all of my art practices to use what I have rather than go out and like source material. And I find it's a really interesting challenge often to make use of what I have or what I can get easily and for not a lot of money.
I think that's great, especially, you know, with the state being environmentally conscious, and there's something beautiful about you not finding fabric, but it finding you. You know, it's kind of like what how a material can inspire a piece. I'm sure that a lot of you have found things, and then that inspires the making of something in particular. I would love to talk to Crystal. We haven't spoken with you yet. Let me just look at our formal questions. But let me just take, I want just everyone to have a good look at Crystal's pieces here. Those. Crystal, I love so much about your pieces, but I really love the way that you use the wire and the metal, and how you thought of the installation of the pieces. They're really elegant, and everyone just take a look at this hanger. It's just really, really beautiful. This one in particular. That's just exquisite.
Can't hear you, Helene.
I think the wire is just exquisite, the way you have shaped that, and it has when I look at the wire, it has a femininity to it. It makes me feel excited, like I just want to cast some bright light on it and see the shadow of it. Crystal, do you want to talk a little bit about your pieces?
Okay, the question that I was given about them was the two, one of them is made of of an old dress, but the other two are made of fabric that I make myself. And the question was how I do that. Yeah. So I'm gonna just quickly show you how I do it, because that's better than me blabbing my head off. So
I love it.
You start with the sheets of starch, which is water soluble, and I make an envelope out of it, and I draw on it the shape that I want to make out of it. And then I save all my thread ends from all my projects. I keep them in a bowl, and when the bowl gets full, I put them in here. Then I take a handful of thread ends, and I put it inside the starch, and I create this. Then I have this in steps. Then I stitch around it so that it stays inside, so I can like move this around. Wow. Then the next step is to stitch it on the machine. And you have to just stitch the crap out of it for a really long time. And you use the widest, longest zigzag stitch and just keep going over and over and over it, because the thread, the new thread, the machine thread has to grab a hold of the thread pieces that are inside of there. So you just go round and round and pivot the machine a lot and just keep stitching it. Then when you finally get as much, you get it stabilized and there's enough thread on it, then you just drop the whole thing into a bowl of warm water, and it's like magic because the starch just dissolves completely immediately. And then you have these very fibrous fabrics that you can work with, and you can cut them, and I've hand embroidered into them. And the piece called doublet, which has a lot of wire to give it structure, the wire is couched on, which is an embroidery stitch, and it's very strong. I've never made it to make garments to wear, but I suppose you could, but you can't pull it apart. It's this really textured, wonderful thing to work with. And it's I save damn near everything that I can keep in my studio organized, and thread ends are one of the things that I try to reuse whenever I can.
Wow. That is everyone that was so wonderful for you to share that. Thank you. That was great. You know, I'm mind blown about I really want to know, how did you discover, was this like a discovery of doing this? Was it an accident that you started collecting these threads?
I took a workshop at Haystack about 10 years ago, and the teacher showed us the starch sheets, and I just kind of figured that out. Oh yeah, and you can use it to make 3D things. So this little box is made out of some of this fabric. So it was made in one piece, and then you can see I stitched all 4 corners so that it created a box. And the little buttons I found them in an antique store. They're these little tiny hand crocheted buttons. They look a little like teeth across there. But anyway, so this it's very sturdy. I mean, it's flexible. I can crumble it up, but it springs back into shape. It's a pretty fun thing to work with. And I just I think I kind of just wanted to try to use these thread ends over again. So I just threw them in there to see what happened. And that's what happened. So here we are, 10 years later, I'm still playing around with it.
One of the questions, Crystal, that I'm noticing came up is, where did you find starch paper? What is starch paper?
It's called, the brand I use is called Sulky Salvy. Try to say that 10 times fast.
Sulky,
Sulky,
okay.
Salvy, Solvy.
Okay.
And it comes in, I think you can get it in rolls, but I just buy it in small. It's like a sheet, and you just cut down what you need.
Awesome. Thank you. Ellen, did you want to jump in?
No, thank you so much for that. That was incredible. I would also say that every single, most people who have come into the exhibit who have seen your pieces have been amazed by the fabric and were really wanted to know how that was done. So it's pretty remarkable. Thank you.
Well, everybody has to make it now.
Yeah. Well, you know, I love the idea of all these pieces that have a bit of memory in them. You know, they have their own little story in them. You know, it's kind of neat that you make other work, and these are kind of the bits, right, that are left that you've combined together. It's that's just wonderful. You know, it's just, I can't even put words to that. That's just lovely. Thank you for giving us a hands-on demo. That really made my night. It's so hard, isn't it, when you're an artist and you go into your studio and you do your work by yourself, and then somebody like the Harlows asking you to get out in front of people on Zoom and talk about it. And it's like, how do you express those words? So that was awesome for us to be able to see that. It just invites a lot more conversation and questions. So thank you so much. Okay, I have not spoken, I think I have spoken, God, forgive me if I haven't. I think everyone has spoken at least a little bit tonight. There's a couple of questions showing up on the feed. I guess a question that Deborah sent out is, Crystal, can you talk about the anatomical heart imagery in it, in your piece? I don't know if that's, is that yours?
Oh, yeah, there is one, sorry.
We both forget. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, okay. Yeah, let me turn it. You're going to lose my voice, but talk about this here.
Okay. Yeah. I have it's a laser cut wood printing plate that I've used for a lot of different pieces, this included. Some of the pieces are printed on paper and other things, but I've been using heart images for some time now, and this is just one version and just one iteration of the image. And this piece is on it's a vintage doll's dress, and it was white, and I dyed it in a sumi ink wash so that it wasn't white anymore, and there's beads all over it, and it's printed with well, it's basically a wood block, but I had it laser cut from an image that I drew. Was that okay?
Sure. So Deborah also wrote, there's quite a bit of it in the bakery studio show, so I wonder if it applies to a story.
I've used anatomical imagery for a long time, and now it's just the heart. Yes.
That's awesome. So, it's so fun to kind of think about all of the patterns of life with the fiber arts, and thinking about passion and connections and storytelling and meditation and making, and the ideas that fabrics are a fabric of life, in a real basic way. When I was a kid, my family were artists, but what we did together was fiber arts. We didn't do fine arts at all. And I just think about, and I wonder what everyone thinks. This is just an added question about fiber arts being used in schools, and how do you feel about children, doing fiber arts? I don't know, are any of you participating out in the community and sharing, other than beyond this show, sharing what you do with other people? Because it's not a lost art. However, with the increasing use of these great little beautiful screens, people are doing different things with their hands all the time. So I just wonder what your thoughts were about that. And yeah, go ahead, Nat. I'd love to hear.
I would love to talk about that. So I'm a first-year art teacher, and I personally am absolutely bringing fiber arts into my curriculum. So my 4th and 5th graders have been doing weaving projects just on little cardboard looms, and my 7th graders next trimester are going to do some yarn bombing inspired weavings. We're going to take our weavings and sew them together and put them up on trees around the property. I think it's a really wonderful thing to bring into schools, because they, like you were saying, they're kind of losing that connection of working with their hands and so close detailed. And I find that the really squirrely kids that have trouble sitting still are often the ones that really find deep focus and are just absolutely taken with the material. So personally, I've been bringing in weaving this year, but I do plan to bring in more like quilting and other fibers and textile arts in the future.
Yeah, it's ironic how you do find that kids that seem like they need it the most actually do need it the most. That's a really interesting. I'm really glad you're teaching art and you're doing it in this time period. Thank you for doing that. Because, teaching art right now is really tough in schools, and glad to see a nice young person doing it. and I hope it's going great.
It's a lot, but it's really rewarding and so
yeah.
great.
What school, where are you teaching?
I'm teaching in Lisbon. I teach at the community school and the middle school there. So I teach between 4th and 8th grade.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're having a little evening for our educators in March in honor of you all to come and play and make art and eat and enjoy yourselves. So we have to make sure, Ellen, that Nat gets an email invite for that. So thank you. I just wanted to talk, I was kind of thinking we'd end around 7, but Meryl, I was just wondering, I know I'm going on the spot. I wanted to ask you, you're in your studio, and since that was so beautiful with Crystal sharing her process, can you talk more about your teapot thing? And maybe you want to show us some of your stuff in your studio? That would be really fun.
Well, first I'd like to show you one of my other chihuahuas. This is Bridget.
Chihuahua is a theme.
Yes.
Okay.
I love dogs and I love teapots.
Okay.
And this little dog goes to hospice with me. We volunteer in hospice, and she's a therapy dog.
Oh my gosh.
I just wanted to share that with you.
This is your dog's moment of stardom. I love it.
And then I wanted to also say that I do a lot of work with the same type of technique that Crystal was talking about. Those wings are from a water-soluble stabilizer. The difference is that I want them to be hardened so that they stay in the position that they are. So those are created by machine with a water-soluble stabilizer, and then I dunk them in water and they harden. And that's how those are created. And Lily, the actual dog, is all needle felted. She's all needle felted, including her little harness, the pink harness, that's needle felted as well. And then I do a lot of teapots in ceramics, and that's a thrown teapot with with a pulled handle, with a mother of pearl luster glaze. And that piece is part of a series of these small teapots. I have been creating them through the pandemic, and they're called the name of the series is called Quarantinis, and they're all tiny teapots that have dolls that I've created atop these teapots that I've created. So I'll show you a couple. And I also have a website if anybody wants to check that out. But here's another one. It's called Possibility. Also, these are the leopard is created from the same needle felting, and then these are water soluble stabilizer wings, and then a thrown teapot. And then
Meryl, where are you in Maine? Where's your studio?
Where is my studio?
Yeah.
And anybody's welcome to come and visit too. This is another teapot that's all created from water soluble stabilizer.
Can you bring it closer to your computer so we can have another?
Yeah.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
And the difference is that I've created the design of the peacock feathers, and then this is called Proud as a Teapot. Proud as a Teapot. And then of course I do a lot of ceramic teapots as well. But you're welcome to check my website, merylruth.com. Created by my daughter, who's a web
Mhm.
designer.
Awesome.
And then also anybody's welcome to come and visit me in my studio. It's
Mhm.
lonely here, especially during the pandemic. And thank you so much for your beautiful show.
Oh,
Really appreciate that you have it. And I
Yes.
feel very honored to be part of it.
Well, thank you. And there's someone really important that would like to be here tonight. And I want to thank her in case she's listening. It's Marie Stugden. And Marie has been our gallery director for the past year, but she just had a baby. So anyways, so Marie, if you're out there, if it wasn't for you, the show would not have come together. But anyways, Marie just had a little baby boy last week and he came almost a month early. So caught us a little bit off charts with getting things done at the Harlow, but we're all good and the baby's healthy and she's all great. So anyways, Marie has a lot to do with this show coming together. So if you get a chance and you want to write her a note, we'll make sure it gets to her. Anyways, it's been really a pleasure. And I know a few of you have to leave, but all of you who are attending and you might have your video off and that's okay. But if you want to just jump in and ask a question to all these wonderful artists, I would love it. This has been such a great conversation. And I'm so happy to have people here at the Harlow, even if it's virtual. I prefer in person, but yeah, is there anyone? I see you turn your camera on, Jamie, and you know I know you, so watch out. But do any of you have some questions out there you want to throw out to any of the artists? We'd love to hear. Anyone? You don't have to be too shy. This is a safe place.
I don't know if Lindsay had something.
I don't know. Ellen, you've spent a lot of time with the show, and because you're the one here at the gallery, I'm just throwing this at you because this is what I do. Anything that you want to say about the exhibit or about any particular pieces or?
I mean, the exhibit's really exciting. Very cool to have a fiber art exhibit at the Harlow. Yeah, I'm just incredibly excited by it. I did have a question for Maysa. Did I pronounce your name correctly again? I did. Okay, great. This is one of the questions that I think I emailed to you, but I was really curious about the images that you included in your book and like how they're connected to you and why it kind of made sense for you to kind of string them together. If you talk a little bit about that.
Whoa, something just happened to my computer.
Oh no.
Okay, sorry. No, I'm good now. Yeah, so the knit book was a final project for my research studio class at SAIC, which is part of the first year program at the school I go to, where you work on like integrating research into your creative process. And I was working a lot with like themes of place and location, and like my relationship to like places and objects and home. And I was sort of feeling like doing work about displacement because it was my first college semester away from home, and like my feelings about living in a new city. And I focused on like really mundane and everyday images. I was thinking a lot about like making a home space. So it's all just like images that I collected throughout my semester. So that's like my roommate's plant on the windowsill and like a coffee cup that I drank out of every morning because I'm a college student and I have one coffee cup. And the view of the fire escape outside of my window because I'm so easily amused by giant buildings because I'm from rural Maine. So the city is like, I'm constantly excited. And the yellow house is from a neighborhood. It's from Pilsen, which if you're ever in Chicago, it's a house directly across from the textile discount outlet, which is like a textile artist's dream. It's like a giant 2-floor warehouse just full, like up to the ceiling with textiles. So that's just a basic summary.
There's that storytelling theme going on in there, and I just love, and I love, one thing I really love about your piece is the drawing that you've done with the sewing. You know, I think that's really And the concept of an artist book in the gallery is really a nice thing. There was many years ago, we had a paper show here at the gallery when we were at our other location. Maybe Sally remembers that, where we had artist books and there was some really great fiber pieces that I really enjoyed. But I love the idea of the line. So when I look at your pieces, I see the line of the drawing is like sort of the line of life. And it's really wonderful, wonderful piece you did. Really enjoyed
Thank you.
it. Yeah. Awesome. Are there some other questions out there? Looks like we're good. I hope everyone's hanging in there. I'm feeling very optimistic these days about, well, about the pandemic. I feel like, and I'm also happy that there's just a little sign of spring out there. And I know that when spring comes, we seem to have a little lightness in our steps. So I hope that, I know the winter is a very productive time for artists, but also it's really good for us to get out and see humans. So I hope that you'll join us in the next couple of months. We have a lot coming up. March is Youth Art Month, and because of the state of the world and the pressure on art teachers, I sort of made the decision that instead of having a formal exhibit this year, that we are having a series of events to honor children and art making and community and art teachers instead. So I hope that maybe you'll enjoy it, some art making with us in that next month. And then we have our juried show. So I would, we will be putting out the call for that very soon, and the due date for that will be about April, I think it's going to be April 1st. So I invite you to think about engaging with us in that way. And the Harlow is so happy to have you. And on behalf of the board of directors, thank you so much for being part of this show. And by being this moderator such an easy, joyful job. So unless there's any other questions, Ellen, is there anything else business-wise we need to do or say? No? Okay. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank you so much.
Thank
Oh,
you.
you're
Thank
so
you. That was
welcome.
wonderful.
And
Thank you.
yeah, we hope to see you in person. And I can't remember the end date. This is what Marie used to be good at when this show ends. Ellen, do you remember what the end date of the show is?
February 26th.
Okay, so it's coming up soon. So our gallery, the Harlow, is open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 11 to 4 and by appointment. So try to bring in your family and friends to see the show before it ends. All right.
All right. Thank you.